Want to know the secret to get your songs on Spotify playlists for more streams and more income? In this video, I take you behind the scenes of the Rustic Songbird podcast, where I interview Allison Clarke about how to get your songs on Spotify playlist. I got so excited about this interview and really enjoyed talking to Allison, and I think you're gonna get a lot out of this. It's very simple and practical advice that anyone, even someone getting started, can implement today. So I'm really excited for you to hear this interview with Allison Clarke all about how to get your songs on Spotify playlists. Before we get started, I wanted to invite you to take my brand new quiz called Are You Ready to Release Your Own Album? If you're a songwriter or musician and you're ready to finally put your music out online this year, then this quiz will help you figure out how prepared you are and give you personalized advice based on your results. Take this fun and easy quiz at rusticsongbird.com/quiz. That's rusticsongbird.com/quiz. My guest on the show today is Allison Clarke. She's a good friend of mine and has an amazing sound. I really love her music, and I can't wait for you to hear more of her story today on the show. We're going to be talking about songwriting, and from the aspect of a songwriter who's pitching their own songs to get on Spotify playlists. And so this is a really interesting topic and an amazing opportunity for any artists, especially independent artists that are doing it on their own and marketing themselves and their music. So I'm excited for you to hear her story on the show today. Allison, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for taking the time to come and share about your music and your story. I'd love for you to give us a little background on where you come from and how you got started in songwriting.
Definitely. So I am from Tallahassee, Florida. That's in North Florida. And I grew up pretty musical. I did like band and chorus growing up, but never was like super in the spotlight until later on when I started writing songs in high school. And that just, it kind of turned from writing poetry and then putting that to music with the piano. So I started with poetry and kind of like prayers almost that I set to music, and then just started learning how to play guitar. And that really like took my songwriting to the next level. So from high school to like college, I started performing more of my songs out and just really enjoyed like the whole aspect of connecting with people through songs, because like before that, it had always been more of a solitary thing where I would just write a song, but just seeing how you could really like bring people together with music and really connect with people in a different way was awesome. So started performing more in college and wanted to move to Nashville. So shortly after I graduated from Florida State, moved to Nashville to pursue music and also to work in the music industry for a little bit. So yeah, since being in Nashville, it's been really fun to connect with songwriters and embark on the whole songwriting or co-writing journey. Cause that's not really something that like was big in Tallahassee, Florida.
Right.
It was more like, okay, now I'm in Nashville. There are other people that share this similar interest. So it's been really fun. Just delving into that area, and then also recording some of my own music and releasing that into the world has been really fun. So in the past, I've done a lot of contemporary Christian music, but I've started going into other genres, kind of more like country, acoustic pop, which has been super fun too. So yeah, just overall, my focus has always been the song and making sure that no matter what type of music I'm putting out, that like it starts with a great core, with a great song. So that really is my passion, and I love singing and communicating with audiences. But I think just as long as it comes back to like a great message in the song, that's what I'm all about.
Yes, I love that. And so you started writing on your own, and was it when you moved to Nashville that you started co-writing?
Yeah, I'd done like a few co-writes in Florida that I didn't even like really know were co-writes. It was just like someone was like, we should try and write a song. And I was like, okay, if this is what people do. But it wasn't until I came to Nashville that I was like, oh, there's like a way that you do this kind of, there's like an etiquette to songwriting, and people are like more, they're just more into it. So yeah, I started doing it more consistently when I moved to Nashville for sure.
Yeah, what was that like for you going from writing by yourself to writing with people? Because I know for me it was really different and it's actually helpful. I love co-writing now, but it's just a different perspective. So what was that like for you, kind of being in the room with other writers?
Yeah, it was definitely an adjustment. So I think the biggest thing I had to get over was throwing out bad ideas. One thing that I tell like a lot of new writers that are new to co-writing is don't be afraid to just throw out something really stupid, because like that might spur on a really great idea for the other co-writer, or maybe that idea really isn't that bad and it could lead to like a great moment in the song. So it was an adjustment, like getting comfortable in that type of environment. But once you just kind of get past like throwing out dumb ideas and stuff like that, it's really like a super rewarding process, because you're able to work with people that have other strengths that complement your weaknesses and vice versa.
I agree. I think the song turns in a different direction when you have those perspectives. And sometimes that's a good thing. Hopefully, that's a good thing because you've got people with different experiences and you come together and you kind of help make it the best that it can be instead of being one-sided. And I feel like some songs are meant to be written by one person, but it just takes it to a whole other level when you've got two or more, maybe even three or four writers on a song. It helps you refine it because it's just like the power of being in a group and having that instant feedback from people.
Totally. And yeah, I think it's a fun way to write songs. Like there are, like you said, there are some songs that I've started on my own and I feel like I need to finish on my own. But then there are other ones that I'll bring to a co-write and then we finish it by the end of that co-write. And I'm like, it would have taken me so much longer on my own to write it. And it wouldn't have been as fun. And that's another thing. Like, I think it's really important to find writers that like you just enjoy being with, because at the end of the day, like the relationships are so important. And so like just choosing people that you want to spend time with is really key.
Yeah, and I think it's a big struggle for many songwriters of like, once you've written the song, what do you do with it? And as an independent artist, you're like, okay, trying to figure it out and like Google everything. Like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And thankfully, there's a ton of tutorials out online, on YouTube, on Google. And so we can kind of do hard knocks and figure things out for ourselves, but like promoting your music and getting it out there is a whole other animal. Like it can be a great song, but if nobody hears it, like what do you do with it? So what was that like for you when you started learning like how to release your own music and get it out there?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is like a whole new thing you're embarking on. It's funny because like you feel like you get to a good place with the music that you've recorded. And then you're like, oh, I have to learn this entirely new skill of like promoting and releasing your own music. So yeah, it's definitely a a big thing to learn, but it's really valuable for the people that want to do it independently. So for me, it was like just recognizing the outlets that were popular. So like Spotify, Apple Music, all of that. And it's releasing it on like all the platforms that your audience is going to be on. So like I used CD Baby to release, that's what I've used to release my music so far.
I've used them too.
Yeah. So they make it really easy, just like uploading your music in the specified format that they have. And you just click like all the different platforms you want the music to be up on. So yeah, I mean, thankfully they made it easy, but then, you have to work on promoting your music in certain spheres. So that's a whole other animal for sure. But it
Yeah,
can also
so
be fun.
so it's like a learning curve, but then I think just determination is
Hmm.
really important of just like, hey, I'm going to figure this out. Like people have done this, so it's doable and just, taking one step at a time.
Hmm.
And so once your music is available, that's a huge step of just making it available. Like it's been recorded, it's out on iTunes or Spotify or wherever. And then it's like, okay, what do I do with it now? So what have you seen as like the biggest response to your music? Like what has worked well for you promotion wise?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, a little bit back to your point, it's like you release music, and I remember like when I first released some music into the world, I was like, oh, this will be great. Like people will just receive it and it'll just spread everywhere. And that's like, I feel like a lot of new artists kind of have the perspective that like, oh, the music is going to just like organically get out there, which I think it's sometimes that happens, but a lot of times you really have to put in the work to make it, you know, spread the way that you want it to, and really like connect it with the audiences that you want it to connect to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the biggest thing, is just finding out where those audiences are that you want to connect with your music. So like for me, I realized that, okay, Spotify is a really big thing right now. Like streaming is huge,
Mm-hmm.
and not as many people are buying music on iTunes. And so kind of different from Apple Music, on Spotify, you can actually reach out to the specific like playlist owners if it's like a privately owned playlist. And so part of my strategy when I released music was getting on some playlist, and that really helped the music like spread. And mainly like the main thing is it helped the music to connect with the audiences that were going to really enjoy it. Because I mean, you can pay a lot of money for your music to get in front of a lot of people, but I think the most valuable thing is getting it in front of the people that are really going to love it.
Yeah, and like you said, streaming is so popular right now that a lot of people are doing that instead of buying CD, hard copies of our music and downloads on iTunes or downloading in general. And so it's an amazing opportunity. People can listen to your song anytime, and you get paid for that. You get paid for streams, which is less than a download, but it's less of a commitment too. And if people listen to it over and over, then it adds up. So just getting your music out there is really important. And so instead of wondering why aren't people downloading my music, like you said, go to where the people are. And if the audience is streaming stuff, we need to be getting on those playlists.
Yes,
And
exactly.
one thing that kind of sparked my interest with this is that I went to my analytics on CD Baby to see which songs were the most played and see what was most popular. And I have a Christmas CD, and one of those songs on my Christmas CD had tens of thousands of plays. And I was like, where is this coming from? And it shows you where the playlists are coming from. And it got on one Christmas playlist that had tons of followers, tens of thousands of followers. And so the last few months of the year, it was getting a ton of streams. And I realized, oh, wow, this is a thing. Like maybe I should get more songs on more playlists, right? So that's when I kind of got that idea, and I've looked into it some. And so I think this is really important, especially for anybody that already has their music available on Spotify, because then you've already got that link you can send to people. And I'd love to hear more of your strategy of like contacting the people that make the playlist and, sharing your music that would be appropriate for that type of playlist. So what does that look like when you're contacting somebody and just saying, hey, this song might work great for you? Like, what is your wording that you use for that?
Right. Well, I first want to start off to where I got this idea. So I had a meeting with a guy that worked at a label, and was just talking with him about like strategies for getting my music out there. And one of the things he started talking about was how they were basically making spreadsheets of all these like big playlists that were out there for like a specific genre. And they would reach out to these playlist owners, and it was like private people, and they would reach out to them on Facebook. And I thought like, wow, that seems like kind of weird and maybe like a little sketchy or something. But at the same time, I was like, if a label is doing this, then there's really nothing stopping me from taking that same approach, because it's like there's not really a gate there to reach out to these playlist owners. So anyways, that's where I got the idea initially, and it's so far been pretty effective in getting the music out there. So what I usually do for finding these playlists, first of all, is I'll pick like some keywords that go along with the song that I released, either the song or like I might have a few songs in mind that I want to pitch to specific playlist. So like, for example, I just released a song called Gulf Coast Breeze. So it's a beachy song, if you can imagine by the title. So what I did was I went on Spotify and then just searched in the search bar, words like beach or coastal or boat playlist, things like that. So I'm typing these in to Spotify, and then you go down and look at the playlists that are using these keywords, and then you can see like who owns these playlists. And the thing about Spotify, they show a profile picture for the person. Usually they'll have a profile picture and then the first and last name. So my strategy is I take that and then I look them up on Facebook. This all sounds like kind of weird, but I mean, it works. So yeah, I search them on Facebook, and I have like a kind of a form message I send them, but it's somewhere along the lines of like, hey, so-and-so, I just found your playlist on Spotify. I really enjoyed listening to the music. I just released a song called blah, 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 and think it'd be a great fit for your playlist. Would love for you to consider adding it. And then I just include a link to the Spotify song, and then just wait and see if they respond. So the other thing about that is it's pretty much a numbers game. Like a lot of people that you reach out to aren't going to respond just because they don't see the message, or they don't really add songs that way. But the ones that do respond, like I think it's important to first reach out to playlists that have like, you know, a good amount of followers, so you're not just like wasting your time trying to get on playlists that have like 5 followers or something, because that's not going to get your music out to like a ton of people. And it's just, if you keep doing that for like every song, it's going to take forever.
Yeah.
So be strategic in how, it's important to be strategic in how you like reach out to the people as far as like how big the playlists are. So anyways, I would send the message and then just wait for them to respond. And I remember like one of the first playlists I got on, there were like maybe 50,000 followers or something. It was like, or 20,000. It was a really big number, and it like made a huge difference. Like you were saying for the Christmas song, it made a big difference in my listenership. And I was like, wow, I'm going to keep doing this because it's working. So that's like typically the strategy that I take. And I know that like there are certain businesses that you can pay to like get your money on playlists and stuff like that. But for me, I was like, I want to keep it low budget, and I'm not paying to get on any of these playlists. Like that's just kind of the way that I operate. But there are like people you can pay to do this. But for me, like if you're wanting to do more of a DIY approach, then I think this is a good way to go about it.
Yeah, that's totally doable. And I appreciate you going through like the steps and exactly what it looks like, because it's doable. And I love the idea of themed playlist, because it's not like you're spamming everybody with any playlist. It's very specific. And also like the wording of how you ask for them to consider it for the playlist. They don't have to put it on there, but you can say, hey, I think this would be a good fit. So check it out, see what you think. You're including a link, so it makes it super easy for them. And if they do like it, they can add it. And like you said, it might not work out for every playlist, but a few of them might add it, and it could make a big difference. And I like the idea of themed playlists because there's music for all different kinds of things. And so as specific as you can get is going to appeal to that audience as well. Because if they're looking for a beachy playlist and you know that song's going to fit, then they're probably going to like the song. And then more people will save it and share it and all of that as well. But another thing that I loved about playlists and getting your songs out there is they don't know you as an artist, and they may not hear your other stuff, but they're still being exposed to your song, and you might gain fans that way, but still they're hearing you when they wouldn't have heard you otherwise. Mm-hmm. And so it's just really neat. When I found that big Christmas playlist, I did the same thing, and I saw the person's profile picture, so I looked up their name on Facebook. Profile picture was the same, so it was obviously that person. And I sent them a message and I said, hey, thank you so much for including my song on your playlist, and it's a great one. So I just thank them for taking the time to put my song on there and including it. And it's been on there several years now. And so if you can make relationships with those people that are actually putting your songs out there and saying thanks, I really think that goes a long way too.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it that I was going to mention as well, is like if they add your song, like you said, make sure you go back and thank them, because kind of getting back to what I was saying in songwriting, how relationships are so huge. It's like, even with something like this that might seem like, oh, they're just like some random person with this playlist, like you actually have the opportunity to build a relationship there. And I think it's just really good, like, practice to be super appreciative when someone does something for you. And then also it's important too to share that playlist. Like if you are added to a Spotify playlist, like the playlist owner, just similar to how you want to grow your audience, like they also want to grow their playlist following. So I think it's important as an artist to share when you get added to a Spotify playlist too.
Yeah, that seems like a good courtesy, and you're sharing your own music and similar music that your audience would like. So that's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. What kind of response have you seen after you've pitched it out to a bunch of places? Like, what kind of responses do you get back from the people that are making the playlists?
Yeah, so a lot of times people, I mean, they're super nice, like pretty much all the time. They're just like, thank you so much for sending this to me. Really enjoyed listening to the song, and I'll add it. So it's usually like a pretty short response. And I think part of the reason is because it's like, if you're doing your research and making sure that this song is going to fit in with the rest of the songs in the playlist, like they're going to hopefully enjoy the song. It's funny because like when I was researching beach playlists for the Gulf Coast Breeze song, it was like some playlists were really techno and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, my song isn't going to fit into this playlist. So you just kind of move on. But I think finding a great match in a playlist is like a good recipe for having the person like, receive the song well and want to add it to the playlist.
Yeah, that makes it a no-brainer for them. If you're like,
Yeah.
hey, I have this song that fits perfectly with your specific playlist, then I think people really appreciate when you do the research and it's not just random.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
makes a big difference.
Exactly.
That is so awesome. Well, tell me what you've been up to with your music and what's coming out recently. Have you been releasing your songs as a single at a time? Or are you releasing an album, or how's that look for you right now?
So, like I said, the last song I released was Gulf Coast Breeze. And that was super fun. I actually just got back from playing a festival in Florida because they found out about the song and really enjoyed it. And it was cool to get to play it like right as I was by the beach and playing Gulf Coast Breeze, feeling that breeze. So that's been a lot of fun, releasing that song. And otherwise, I don't have like solid plans to release new music, but I've been doing a ton of writing lately and just trying to hone in on my sound and what I want my next project to be. So just a lot of kind of deep in the creative process, and hopefully before too long, I'll have some new music to release.
That's exciting. Well, I really enjoy your music, and it's always fun to listen to. So I want to encourage everyone to go out and hear your music. What is the best way for people to find you and your music online?
So you can go to my website, which is AllisonClarkemusic.com. And that's Clarke with an E, just so everyone knows. And then you can also find me on Instagram, Allison Clarke Music, and Facebook under Allison Clarke.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing about your experience and kind of your story. And I hope that this encourages a lot of other artists and independent songwriters to really get your music out there and be creative in the ways that you do that. With strategies like this, you can reach out to people and really make a splash. And so with streaming being so popular right now, I think it's great to just try things, see what works, and figure out how to do more of that. So thanks for taking the time to be on the show today, Allison. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for watching today's interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you liked about this interview and what you'd like to see more of on the show. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts by searching for Rustic Songbird. You can also check out all of the previous episodes and interviews with songwriters and people in the music industry by going to rusticsongbird.com/podcast for the list of all the previous episodes. But make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening from so you don't miss a thing. Thanks again for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.